Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I watched the film Eddington and now I want to tell you about it. It's a comedy drama about a small town during the pandemic. A local sheriff and the mayor get into a standoff that causes a powder keg to ignite, pitting neighbor against neighbor. The story was written by Ari Aster, who also directed the film. It stars Joaquin Phoenix, Pedro Pascal, and Emma Stone. Eddington is a fast-paced satire that throws 100 different ideas at you before trying to connect everything with a string so thin Superman couldn't find it. They take politically charged stereotypes and try to make a point about who's really running the world. The characters are unlikable, over-the-top people meant to show us different viewpoints on the pandemic, Black Lives Matter, and information dissemination. They try to use these stereotypical characters to create funny scenarios and laugh at extremist ideologies while also delivering a message about how tribalism and technology are creating a bigger problem. At the center of the story is a sheriff called Joe Cross. He doesn't believe in masking and takes issue with the mayor who's trying to implement county-wide mask enforcement. As the two fight over the issue, some harsh words are said, and Joe soon finds himself running for mayor to make a change. The race leads to increasing tensions in the small town that end in a violent confrontation, or several to be more precise. The cast is made up of ordinary townsfolk caught up in Joe and Mayor Ted's feud. There's the other deputies at the sheriff's station, a couple of local teenagers, Joe's wife and mother, and a local homeless guy who sets off the fireworks. Then there's the two main characters, Ted and Joe. Joe is the local sheriff. He's a local whose father was the sheriff before him. He's got a dysfunctional relationship with his wife and mother, but does what he can to keep his family together. At first, he tries to keep the peace in town, but soon he finds himself lost in the chaos just as badly as everyone else. Ted looks like a great guy on TV. He runs a great campaign and says all the right things in front of the camera. Behind closed doors, he tends to trample all over the rules he himself set and shows little regard for others or their well-being. His only real interest seems to be in keeping power and maintaining his image. The visual journey is watching Joe drive around his town and get into arguments with the townsfolk for an hour and a half, and then 20 minutes of surprise action for the ending. The locations are everyday places without much pomp and circumstance. The costumes are the same way. There's a lot of normal people wearing normal clothes. The action, when it comes time for it, is high-octane gunfights with semi-brutal graphics. They imply some really awful stuff, but don't quite show it. Sound-wise, the film employs scored instrumentals to build the tension, add a little bit of mystery, and create a dreary, nightmarish environment. The tracks range from simple tension pieces to more complex epic-sounding songs. There's also the occasional original track here and there. They add a little bit of flavor to different sections. Which brings me to my review. It's just a collection of different ideas that they try to tie together into one big conspiracy theory. A lot of the ideas are completely unrelated to one another, and the film feels incredibly disjointed because of it. It's kind of like watching someone ramble about how Bigfoot is behind the Jewish space lasers that are causing the wildfires in California, which is why the government is bringing in immigrants. At some point, my brain just shut off the way it does whenever I'm listening to a mentally ill person rant. It's not exciting either. The story is supposed to be filled with drama and humor, but the drama is just this guy freaking out about one thing after another and then doing some heinous acts for basically no reason. They don't give you a reason to care about him, what he's freaking out about, and they don't make it funny. There are like 2 funny moments in the entire film, and both of them are more about the shock factor than anything else. The story doesn't set anything up and doesn't follow through with anything either. It doesn't answer a single question that it poses, nor does it offer any real morals or guidelines to follow. You basically just watch something happen and then try to derive meaning from it like an ink blot test. The real answer is that someone spilled some ink, and you're searching for meaning in their mess. There might be some meaning somewhere, but chances are you're just sinking time and effort into a lost cause. Even if you did find something, the author wasn't the one who put it there. Cast-wise, there's a lot of okay performances. They say their lines well, get the personality right, and the two leads do okay with the teeny tiny bits of emotion they're allowed to engage in. The film spreads the screen time pretty thin, so no one gets to do a really memorable performance, but no one stands out as awful either. When it comes to the leads, Phoenix and Pascal, they get to do a little bit of emotion and perform slightly more iconic roles, but both of them are still a few inches short of being interesting. Phoenix is just playing another crazy right-winger who descends into madness, and Pascal is playing another corrupt politician who doesn't believe in the things he preaches. Neither manages any breakout moments or any real nuance. Visually, the film is incredibly boring. It's an everyday adventure in a small town. There's nothing to see, nothing to be impressed by. Hell, they don't even have any pretty faces to keep you distracted. It's like the film goes out of its way to look as mundane and boring as possible. It also lacks any kind of special moments. There's no big conversations and no big confrontations. The closest they get is a firefight that occurs toward the end, but it's just Phoenix shooting a big gun into the air. We don't really see who he's shooting at, and he doesn't cause any large amounts of destruction despite using a minigun and firing it non-stop for almost 10 minutes. The only redeeming quality of the visual journey is that it's clear about what's happening most of the time. Sound-wise, the film uses its tracks effectively to create creepy atmospheres, tense moments, and to draw out a bit of emotion now and again. The music comes in at the right volume, does its job effectively, and doesn't make a big splash while doing it. It's also never a driving factor or all that memorable, but it works well enough for the film. Personally, I hated watching this film. It's so over the top and in your face about the political aspects of its story, despite having nothing of value to add to any conversation it tries to force its way into. The writing wasn't interesting or fun, the characters are all kings of Suckballs Mountain, and it didn't really make any sense. They just hammer you with different ideas until they run out of things to say. The cast, the visual journey, and the soundtrack don't do anything to save it either. It's just a lot of muted, mundane performances without much going on. My recommendation is that you avoid this film like the plague. As for a rating, I'd give this film a 3 out of 10. Remember, these are just my thoughts on the film. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Bye-bye.